Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Doppler Effect Podcast, One Signal, Different Experience. Tonight, we are joined by Casey Shumate of On Point Development from Fort Valley, Georgia. Whereabouts is Fort Valley, Casey?
Well, if you know anything about Georgia, there's a city called Macon. It's right in the middle. So if you
Okay.
go to Macon and then go down about 20 miles, there I am.
Okay, nice. And how big is Fort Valley? Because I've seen your videos and you're out training in I mean, it looks like relative middle of nowhere, but so enlighten me a little bit.
That's that's a fair statement. Um, yeah, so we've got some acreage here on our place, but honestly, we're pretty convenient to a lot of different places. So, like I said, I'm about 20 miles south of Macon, so I can be downtown Macon in less than 30 minutes. I can be to the town of Fort Valley in about 10. And then there's some other municipalities that are close by. So I can really get anywhere, buy my groceries, things like that, about 25, 30-minute drive.
That's perfect. So you've got some solitude back there, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. I like that. So, okay. So, I'm gonna jump into a question or two from Dop here, and we're super low budget on this end. I'm gonna hold up the iPad and then I kind of fix things in the edit. But so here's
Man,
a
I'm
fun.
I'm judging hard. I'm judging hard by this quality.
I think everybody gives me a look at this point. They're like, "Wait, what's about to happen?" So, all right. Here's a question from Dop. Whoops. Sorry. There we go. Better turn the volume on.
Shumate, so glad to have you. I've got a very important question today. If I asked three of your best friends to describe you using only three words, what would those words be?
That's so hard, Dob. That's unfair. Um, only three words. They'd probably have a mouthful for me. So let's see. Three words. I think loyal, honest, and funny.
That's great. That's great. And I think that shows through in your content, especially, I mean, you're clearly loyal to the clients that you're working with. You're very honest with people about what you're doing. Like I love watching your training method because you have such a calming presence when you're working with dogs. I don't know if
Thank you.
anyone's told you that before, but like I don't know, and I've found and I've heard from many other trainers like your body language speaks volumes. And I think we've even had kind of chats more or less back and forth about this through comment sections, probably
Yeah.
about the body language and what it takes to be a good dog trainer. And so what really interests me is like, I want to know more about your story of becoming a dog trainer. Like, when did that fire get lit in your life that you knew this was what you're supposed to be doing?
Man, great question, Tyler. So it's not a straight and narrow. It's got a lot of curves and some circle backs and so it's an adventure. We can put a lot of labels on it, but probably if I had to trace my roots back to just wanting to work with dogs in general, my first memory that I have interacting with a dog, believe it or not, I was about 3 years old. And I do have those core memories. I actually remember, being around that dog. It was a Doberman Pinscher. It was a neighbor's dog. And I loved her. And apparently, I didn't know this at the time. I've learned through storytelling over the years, but apparently, Princess loved me, and I was like the only person that Princess loved. She didn't even love her owner. And so I just have some fond memories of that and spending time with her. And then, of course, getting my first dogs. But I think what really turned me on to training in particular was, that I grew up with labs mostly. I mean, we had some hounds and things like that, but mostly labs. And I had a lab that it just seemed that he understood everything that I said. And so he was super easy to train. And I thought, oh, I can do this with every dog. But yeah, as I've since learned about 25 plus years later, I can do it with a lot of different dogs, but not quite as simple as it was with my buddy Bo. That was the name of that lab that I had.
So
So
it sounds
that
like you
was
had a special connection even then.
yeah, yeah. So I was probably, I don't know, early teens, real early teens. It was prior to getting my driver's license. So,
Wow.
maybe middle school, something like that.
That's so cool. So, and you said you grew up with labs, but now I notice you have three GSPs and one lab. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So a
So,
full tilt switch.
right. So, like I said, not the straight and narrow path. The dog training did a lot of different things prior to landing here as my primary occupation. And part of that was in the veterinary industry. So my
Okay.
bachelor's is in veterinary technology. And so
Awesome.
my interaction with clients, I saw a lot of GSPs over the years, and I always loved those dogs. And I kept saying, like, one day I'm going to have a GSP. And I know you're going to find this hard to believe, and probably I'm about to make some jaws hit the floor here, but I didn't get my first GSP until 6 years ago.
Oh wow.
Cooper, my dog Cooper, that you see in a lot of the videos, he is my very first GSP. Yep. And it's like a tattoo. Can't have just one.
I keep becoming more and more concerned with that. That like Doppler's to that point right now where I feel like he needs the extra stimulation. Like, I mean, he's he's 9 months now, and like, every time I think he's done hitting that like teenage phase, or like it can't get any worse, like it's getting worse. Like his
Oh,
energy levels are out of the roof right now. It's so fun, but he's a he's a lot.
and he's not
So
going to become an actual teenager until he's like one. So
right, yeah,
let that
I
be your encouragement.
right for sure. So 6 years ago, you get a GSP, you get Cooper, right?
Yeah.
And and when did you start on point development from like
Officially with a name, I started it 5 years ago. Sorry.
5 years ago now?
So that was a 2020. Well, 6 years, guys. I forget that it's 2026 now. So yeah.
You know, people still say 20 years ago, and I think they're talking about like 1996.
Look,
Wait, they are.
man, I'm so old. I'm so old. When I hear 20 to 30 years ago, I'm like 30 years ago. I was like, oh, that was like 1970.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. It's funny how our mind plays tricks on us like that.
Yeah, but in reality, I'm really gonna show my age here. In reality, now when I say 30 years, that was 1996. I was actually the year that I graduated high school. So
Oh wow.
I'm an old
Okay.
lady.
Age is only a state of mind. That's 100%
That's
true,
right.
right? So, because you mentioned, I usually ask people how long they've been on social media. You mentioned that 21 years over a span of back to the days of MySpace. So, and I
Yeah.
remember MySpace quite well because I think that was popular about my junior and senior year in high school, which was '05 and '06. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's another thing I like to talk with people about, and just their experience with social media and putting things out there like dog training. Like I, we all experience to an extent um, positive and negative feedback from the social media community, but like I think we're also so lucky to have this really niche pocket community of amazing people that just support each other. So like, what's that been like for you, and how have you used social media to help you with what you do?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. It is a double-edged sword, I feel like. And for me, I've been very fortunate to have extremely minimal negative interactions. But the one thing about social media that'll always be true is we have complete control over it. We have all the choice in the world and all the control to choose what we engage with,
That's right.
choose what we put out. And so if you complain about it, then maybe you need to look inward and see what's the content you're putting out. Is it controversial? Are you asking for that? But you don't agree with something somebody says, you don't have to engage. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to comment. Just keep it moving.
Yeah, we all have the freedom just to move on, right? And some
Yeah.
people just lack that ability, unfortunately. And I
Yeah.
like I get it. It's people are frustrated by a lot of things these days, and but it's like let's peel back and try to find either find something in common or like this is going to sound very cliche, but I was raised. My grandmother told us. Uh, 5 days a week growing up, probably. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And
Yeah.
I don't always live by that, but gosh, it sure be nice to see people try.
Well, and my problem with that is I speak fluent sarcasm,
You
and
mentioned that. I like that.
and it's so hard to interpret tone through text.
Oh, yes.
So thank God for the invention of emojis to hopefully help push that emotion over the edge a little bit. So I'll admit, I threw some sarcasm out at you, early on when we first started interacting, and I was like, man, I hope he gets it. I was like, but he seems like the kind of dude that will. So we're just gonna hit send with a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, yeah, that's always a good idea. Odds are I'm going to pick it up. I'm the guy that sits and has conversations with an AI dog. That
Right, right.
it happens for sure. So,
Yeah.
okay, so let's have some fun and talk about like training expectations. Like when someone comes, well, like you've got a new client coming in, like you want to make sure that you align with that client. You want to make sure that they know you're setting expectations. So like what in a sorry, in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to ask is like, what are those expectations that you lay out? Like, hey, this is how I know your dog came here and worked with me and now is ready to come home, and you continue on that training.
Okay. So I think it's twofold if I understand you right. So you asked like what expectations are being set with the client, and then really how do we demonstrate on the back end? So that first call that you have with the client, I feel is extremely important in setting the expectations. And you have to ask about goals. What are their goals with the dog? And I also think it's fair to ask about that dog's pedigree and a little bit about the history, because we can change environment, but the one thing we can't do as trainers is change genetics. And
Sure.
genetics do play a role. And even in, GSPs that seem to just be the most versatile dogs on the planet, and they're kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none. Some will argue that they're the jack of all trades and the master of all trades. Um, but even as great as like my dogs are in their own respect, I have to recognize that they give up some things in other areas. They are not perfect. So I think having those type conversations up front, and then sharing and being completely honest with them about who you are as a trainer, what your methods are, and how you plan to reach their goals for them, help them reach their goals with their dogs by speeding up the training of the dog. But then the most important part to me is being able to train the handler, because we can take these
Huge.
dogs in, and I mean, honestly, board and train programs, it's just the fast track. Let's be real. It's a fast track to training it, because you don't have to train me. You don't have to train, you as a trainer or whatever. You're just spending
Oh,
all the
don't
time.
give me that much credit.
Well, yeah. Maybe we should say Jordan. Let's
Yeah,
just use,
let's use Jordan as an example.
yeah. Let's use a professional.
Good idea.
But yeah, and so it fast tracks the training of the dog, and you have to heavily consider, what does the handoff look like? What does the handler, the owner training look like? Because that's where all the continued success lies, is in their ability to handle the dog according to how you've taught the dog, basically. And so to follow up and hopefully conclude uh, the answer of that question is, I like to demonstrate, and then I have them do it. So they get
So
to
I
learn by
imagine
observation.
you've got like a take home lesson at a certain point, huh? Or like
Yeah, well,
handoff
it's
is important.
yeah, it's a pretty extensive what I call your handoff session at pickup,
Yeah,
and I ask them to commit to a minimum of an hour. And depending on the program that the dog went through, if we're talking about a retriever program or an upland program, we're probably going to need the better part of an hour, sometimes 2 hours, because we might have to
sure,
go off site, things like that. Basic obedience, we can scale that back anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour.
sure,
But, ask them to commit to that, because it's important. And I also ask them to be able to commit on the front end too, about, we talk a lot about what's their time commitment to continue the training, how do they plan to advance the training? Because Most of my programs are what I consider starter programs, and they're starter in the respect that like these dogs, my hunting dogs, my gun dog programs, they're ready to go. Like take them
Sure.
to the field and go do the next thing for them. I'm not keeping a dog for 4 to 6 months and getting a dog that's finished per se, which is an industry standard term. So their commitment and what they can commit to on the front end is huge too. And believe it or not, um, I think part of being a successful trainer is being realistic with yourself and being able to say no, because every client's not for me and I'm not for every client.
Uh, that's such an important thing like in business in general, especially. But like, because if you don't align with somebody, or if you kind of, sometimes somebody's going to give you that, you're just that bad impression, that hey, at the end of this, do I really feel like, or in your case, like, hey, I'm putting a lot of time and effort into your dog. Are you going to continue that on, or are you just going to let it slide and then turn around and say, call me in a week and say, hey, the dog's not acting right. And like, you probably only have to get bit like that once or twice, I imagine, before you start having a mindset change. Would
Yeah,
that,
because my name's attached to every dog that leaves here, right? And no matter what, when it leaves here, I have zero control over what happens. And so when that dog has learned all the manners and all the things that it's been demonstrated that it knows it. The handlers demonstrated knowledge of how to handle the dog. And then they just get home and not do anything. And this dog's jumping on people when they come to the door and just no manners whatsoever. People know that Fifi has been at OPD with Casey Shumate for 4 weeks. And, you know, they look at it from that perspective first
yeah,
versus, oh, hey, you're not enforcing what your trainer said. That's not
yeah,
the reality that we live in.
it's unfortunate, for sure, because yeah, and then people run with things that, of the wrong opinion, or uninformed opinion these days, and that, bad information gets spread. That goes with anything, for sure.
Yeah.
So uh, the an obedience program for you, is that typically a 30-day program, 45-day program? Like, what's a standard obedience program for you?
3 days, four
30 days.
weeks, and that's all the basics, what I consider basics, a sit down, stay, solid recall, all with duration, distractions, high distractions, we're going in public, things like that. So, yep, 30 days.
uh, I love the, like, so up to this point where I'm with Dop, I've never had a dog where I could just walk. Like, he's heel trained right now. I mean, with the Garmin Sport Pro, so like, we go to Baumgar's, which is the tractor supply store, probably once or twice a week, and just do laps inside, like, just so he's comfortable. But he's gotten to the point where he's so confident and he just knows what he's doing, and like, it's such a cool feeling to be able to take your dog with you and know that, like, no matter, like, I know that even without, I shouldn't say, like, if he was approached, or like, if a dog came at him aggressively, that's where I'm scared a little bit. So like, how do you reconcile those type of situations, I guess? When, I mean, or is it more, should I be like, hey, I should always have a leash on?
Uh, Well, I think you kind of have to weigh the situation, right?
The
Like
pros and
if
cons, right?
yeah, I mean if you walk in the tractor supply or whatever you called it and it's pretty empty and it's not a Saturday where and it's a pretty day where everybody's going to typically have their dog out, maybe you can get away with some off-leash stuff. But ultimately, I think you have to think safety and responsibility first when it comes to your
Sure.
dog, because your dog is an extension of you, and we have an obligation to ensure their safety first, and then also ensure that we have complete control over those dogs.
For sure.
So you have to decide as the owner and the handler what's the best method for each situation. Sometimes I do some off leash work, and it's in those situations where I know it's probably going to be low traffic. Not that I'm worried about my dogs, because I'm to a point with my dogs where they're not going to be the ones to probably break and go do anything. It's protecting them against that other dog
The
scenario
other
that you
dog.
mentioned. So that leash, I could talk about the leash all day because I think it's the single greatest training tool ever invented. It gives you ultimate control. So you have physical tether and control over that dog to remove them from a potentially harmful situation.
Yeah, that makes pretty good sense for sure. So, okay, so the sorry, I'm drawing. I had a little bit of a brain fart here. Okay, here's one. You mentioned that a let's say pet peeve or on the biting list that people use or claim their dogs to be a service dog and abuse that system. And I think we've all probably seen or heard of somebody doing that. Like, what's involved? Like somebody, what if that's one of your customers' goals? They come in and say, "Hey, I want my dog to be a service dog." Do you help them walk through that process, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I do absolutely train service dogs, and it's an exclusive offering, meaning that if I book a service dog, I'm going to only book that client because I need the time to do the obedience work and the public access work and then begin the task training work. And I say begin because it just depends on what task we're training. Obviously a diabetic alert dog is going to have different tasks than a PTSD dog or mobility assistance or seizure response. And so to do that properly, it takes a lot of time.
I imagine so.
It's not a 30-day program. It's not even a 60-day program. I would argue that what I would consider a finished service dog that is starting to task, depending on the task, I would say 4 months is a good average.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
It, and so there's a lot of different tasks, like you mentioned. Like, are those like I can't. I'm fascinated by the idea of the diabetic alert dog. Like,
Mhm.
what? I wouldn't even know where to begin, Casey. So, like, like, what's going on
Scent
with trying?
work,
It's
they're
that
some of
scent.
my favorite because it's scent work. So if you're a gun dog trainer, it's kind of like a no-brainer, right? It's one of the easiest things in my opinion because diabetic highs and diabetic lows smell completely different. And so you have to get the samples from the person and then it's just training scent work after that.
Interesting.
Hmm.
The things a dog can do are fascinating. The things that people figured out that they can teach dogs to do are even more amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I say it's just that simple, but you know, think beyond that. So think of like a severe diabetic, like if they go into a severe, low, you maybe want to teach that dog some retrieval skills, which is go get something, go get me a snack, an orange juice from the refrigerator, something like that. So there's multiple tasks besides the alerting for the high or the low that you can couple with it.
that's so cool and very practical use. And so you said that's about a 4 month program. I noticed from your TikToks, I see, I feel like not only do I see you doing a lot of work outside in the swamp, more or less, but
Yeah.
which I saw the other day at one where the beavers were helping you clear the swamp. It looked like so
Yeah. Great.
that's
Very cost
pretty.
effective.
Yeah, it seems like it might be a slow process, but yeah, it takes a lot of work out of it.
We'll
But I
get
also
there. Call me back in 20 years. I'll have a pond.
Well, I also see that you work a lot, which it looks like in your home and seems like in very practical, real life, everyday applications and settings. Like,
Yeah,
is that pretty common practice for you?
100%. I use my garage. So, Jordan, Garage Trainers Unite.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to put that stab out there.
Hey, well, while we're
I
at it,
will. Hey,
there's
my
Jordan's shout
guy,
out. So,
my guy. Great dude. I've loved getting to know him. Yeah, I use my garage. I use my house. I use my yard. I use my husband's shop. I use what I got, and I am making plans to build a kennel per se. But I usually keep my load pretty low. I don't take any more than 4 dogs at a time,
sure.
and that's just what I feel like I can give, to be honest. And that's not a stab at anybody that says, "Oh man, I have 10, 12 dogs at a time," and they're a solo act. More power to you. I don't know how you do it. But kudos.
It sounds like a lot of
And,
work.
yeah, kudos to you. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I've got a couple more questions from Dop here, and I think you'll enjoy. This one is very goofy, so just be forewarned. Let's see. Sorry, I don't know. We're having technical difficulties, Casey. I
you know,
don't know.
this is to my heart. I don't know if you saw some of my TikToks, but you know, I love a high quality, you know, moment or dog or whatever and low quality content. So this is speaking to my heart. I love it.
That is
Hey,
great.
we'll call it high quality conversation, low quality
Low
content.
quality content. Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
That's why you'll notice if anyone's actually watching the entirety of the podcast on YouTube, that's where the lowest views are. So, but the clips do pretty well. So let's see here. Sorry, we're going to be about right here. Maybe. What? I have no idea what's going on. I apologize. Let me try something here.
Thank God for the edit tool, right?
Oh, no kidding. I don't know where I'd be without it, Casey. So
No.
why on earth the strangest thing? Um. Oh. Okay. My phone was on silent. I
There you go. I mean,
I thought I would only silence a ringer coming in. Let's see.
To describe you using only 3 words, what would those words be?
We're gonna end. All right. Here's the next question.
Okay, another very important question. If your bed sheets were made out of deli meats, which meats would you prefer them to be made out of?
oh
Okay,
man, hands down roast beef.
Roast beef. That'd
Heck
be a hell of
yeah.
a bed sheet. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Be one you might have to change more frequently, I feel like.
Yeah. And then my bedspread, my comforter would be provolone cheese.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea. Okay, one more here. Let's see.
One. If you could swap the sounds that any 2 animals make, which animals would you swap? Oh,
Swap the sounds any two animals make. Hmm. I think it would be interesting to swap us and dogs.
That would, and let them
Yeah,
speak, huh?
because that kind of plays into like what you're doing with the dog, you know?
That would be pretty fun. To like, and I enjoy the idea of them. I mean, I think we all do it. Probably, we put our own thoughts into our dogs' heads to a certain extent. As
Yeah.
we're having these conversations with them. But yeah, it would be really fun to see those roles reversed, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I I 100% like I feel like I'm Dr. Doolittle. Like I feel like I can already hear them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I believe it.
how they all sound and the things that they would say. Yeah. And my Sadie girl, I'm sure you've seen her on some TikToks. Yeah, she would by far be the most unruly, the sassiest, the mouthiest, disrespectful. Yeah, she would. She would be like that foot stomping, pouty teenage girl. Which, by the way, today is her birthday. She's 3 years old
Happy birthday,
today.
Sadie.
Yeah, yeah. So, but she's 3 Dop, so I don't
Ooh,
know. It's
that,
cougar.
yeah, probably a little bit out of his age range. Well, at this rate, who knows? He'll be
Yeah,
he's a wild animal right now. My dad keeps giving me a hard time that it's time to get him fixed, but I'm still not entirely convinced that I may not consider getting a female someday and breed. Like I don't know. I don't know if I have any business in that world, but like growing up around dogs and in veterinary, around veterinary medicine, I always thought it'd be cool. Like that was always one of my favorite parts of watching what my dad got to do, was
right.
going and seeing a litter of puppies. So um,
Yeah.
so have you ever gotten into the breeding game at all?
Oh no. Oh no. So I have bred both Cooper. I've studded out both Cooper and Bo before they were fixed. They're both fixed now, but never had a litter of my own, and I have no desire to go there.
So you're already taking care of enough dogs as it is.
Yeah, yeah. There's no shortage. I mean, if I don't have a client, still have 4 dogs at the house. You
Nice.
know, and you have to think about that. Like, gosh, it is a, people was like, hey, won't you and your husband, come visit for the weekend or yada yada yada. My parents, they live in Florida, and they're like, come down and visit you and your husband. And I'm like, because I usually go down by myself. I'm like, it's a whole thing to like arrange dog care
Yeah.
for 4 dogs who are all 4 completely different dogs who eat 4 different types of feedings, and like it's just all the things. Like it's literally a page. Like I have to leave a page and like a dog.
Leave detailed instructions, huh?
Yes, they're so high maintenance. And I think all the time, like, why? Why do I do this to myself? And then, I've gotten down to like 1 dog here and there throughout my life, and I'm like, I need more dogs. Need more dogs. It's kind of like that, need more cowbell from Saturday Night Live. Need more
Yeah. Oh,
dogs.
I think I'm going to need to get a cowbell for down here. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it needs. More cowbell for sure.
Yep. So, and then here we are, with a puppy.
Always a challenge, in particular when, yeah, you just keep stacking on top of each other. And it's funny to me that you guys ended up with 3 GSPs after you only had your first 6 years ago. I love that. But they're an
Yeah.
addictive breed for sure. I like the way you put it. You said they're like tattoos.
Yep. You can't have just one. Um, and Cooper's the only one that I've had since a baby. I got him when he was 8 weeks old. The other twos are basically rescues. You can say they're rehomes, but once I really found out more about where they were coming from, it's pretty much a rescue situation. They were
Okay.
both relatively young, though. Bo was 6 months old and Sadie was 4 months old. But taking dogs in like that is it's much different than getting them when they're puppies, because you're kind of having to mitigate environment at that point. And then
And
genetics, like you don't know a whole lot about their background.
yeah,
Uh,
or
it doesn't say a
or
lot on the AKC papers sometimes.
oh, so I imagine those rescue situations. You also don't know like what was the dog's previous environment like. Does it have any aversions to specific people or like whatever it's going to be. So while you mentioned rescues, that's something I like to encourage people to like. Is there a rescue or a cause or anything that you're particularly passionate about in your area that you like to work with or that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I actually foster for the Southeast GSP rescue.
Awesome.
So they're huge. They cover, I'm going to mess it up, but actually their logo, if you look up their logo, it's all the states and it's in the shape of a bird dog pointing. Southeast GSP rescue. I think it's
Southeast.
Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I might be leaving a state out.
Okay. That's awesome. And how long have you been working with them?
3 years now.
3 years. I
Hmm.
I think it is so cool. Like if somebody asked me recently, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And I told her that I would probably be doing this same ridiculous bullshit. But I'd also love more than anything to start a dog rescue or a shelter, a sanctuary of some sort. Like I was just like I've always been a person that wanted to work with dogs, but I didn't
Hmm.
really ever put it together. They're like, oh, that's something I could do someday. But like, yeah, if I knew I couldn't fail, I'd find beautiful place out in the middle of nowhere and say, all right, hey, here's a canine sanctuary. I just think that'd be so much fun. So
Well, who says that you're going to fail? Like,
that's a good
you
point.
know?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have to work with that mindset. One thing that has been interesting for me is there's this, you've probably heard the term imposter syndrome at a certain
Mm,
point or another.
yeah.
But I have to remind myself, not a lot, people have known me as Doppler and radar's dad for about the last year or so here. But like, so I actually used to be an entertainer down in Nashville. Like I've, for 10 years, I was a like aspiring musician down on Broadway. Like, so, I studied the entertainment industry in college. Like, these are all things that I kind of always kind of wanted to do. And, TikTok kind of gave me a really cool opportunity, but at the same time, like, all of a sudden you should like something goes crazy and you've got all these people and it's just like, oh my goodness, I forget sometimes why I do what I do, but then I have fun interactions like this, and I have or somebody will leave me a comment, and you've left me so many positive comments that have just like they hit me sometimes. Like it's like thank you, because we have to lift each other up, like for sure, and
Yep.
I appreciate that about you and about the people in our community for sure.
Yeah.
All right,
Very
I have
well.
one. I promise to keep these right around 30 minutes, and I've already gone
Okay.
over time. I would love to speak all afternoon, truth be told, because I have tons of questions, but my problem is I can't keep up with them if they're much more than 30 minutes. So,
All right.
one
We
more
can
question.
talk offline if you got a minute after we get done recording. I'm fine with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, all right, let me pull this up. Okay.
Okay, Casey, I want to say thank you again so much for being here. One final question tonight. If you could be famous, what would you like to be famous for?
Man, that's a good question though. To be famous. I think, I don't know. I don't really know how to word it, but I think just for authenticity, you know,
I love that.
I am who I am. You know, I'm a smart aleck. I'm sensitive. Um, I'm a lot of things. So, and I think that's just, I try to bring that to TikTok. I don't even want to be on TikTok, if I'm being honest, but I just, I felt like I had to be. And then I was like, if I'm going to be there, like, what am I going to post about? Like, I don't really want to, promote my business per se. I mean, I get plenty of it organically and through other means. And I've gotten a lot of it off TikTok. And I'm very, very thankful for that.
That's awesome.
Social media in general, Facebook as well, Instagram as well. But, I think you asked me a question in my like intake about, why I'm on social media and stuff. And I just want to be me and, not like, positive Polly, like, oh, nothing's ever wrong, but, just spread a little love. There's a lot of people out there that are very capable of doing what I get paid every day to do for their own dog. They just kind of need a little bit of guidance and encouragement. And I can't train every dog. Jordan can't train every dog. All the other trainers out there, Bailey, he can't train every dog. And everybody doesn't have the budget for that. And that's okay.
Right.
If I can spread a little bit of positivity, encouragement, maybe help them, frame their thoughts and what they're doing, then that's it. So if I could get famous, just famous for being me.
I love it. I love it. Eloquently put. Thank you so much. So, all
Sure.
right. Well, I do. I want to keep chatting, but yeah, I think this is a great place to wrap it up right here. So this has been the Doppler Effect Podcast. One Signal. What's your experience, Casey Shumate? Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to chatting again in the near future on Point Development. Thank you so much. All right, and then I
Thanks.
think I'll just press stop.